Welcome to this new automotive news video for Sunday, March 8, 2026. And today we're going to talk about BYD, which once again humiliates European manufacturers by unveiling a new electric car battery technology. Absolutely mind-blowing. We'll also talk about another Chinese car brand, Denza, which is unveiling a new electric car with record-breaking range and charging time. Here too, it's way ahead of what traditional car brands are offering. In fact, it's especially striking. This is different from other news, as we'll discuss Ford promoting the new electric Ford Puma. We'll also talk about Volvo, which has developed new automotive safety technology based on artificial intelligence. And then we'll have two news items about Mercedes. The first is the interior of its new GT, which has been revealed, with, as you'll see, some rather surprising technical features. Let's put it that way. And finally, we'll talk about the head of Mercedes, who once again warns the European Commission that the targets set for the transition to electric cars are simply unattainable. These are the topics of this Sunday video, the last one of this week. I hope you'll find it interesting. If that's the case, as usual, I count on you to show your support for my channel for free. You can help by liking or boosting this video if available. That's most important for the YouTube algorithm right now. You can also, of course, subscribe for upcoming videos and leave a comment, where you simply share your opinion about this news for Sunday, March 8th. As I was saying, we'll start by talking a little bit about BYD, the Chinese car brand that's starting to arrive little by little in Europe, which has unveiled a new battery that literally puts European car competitors to shame. European brands, even the most premium and advanced ones in terms of electric cars, are struggling to exceed 800 km of range and to announce charging times under 30 minutes. On the BYD side, they've just introduced a new battery that breaks all records. It's called the Blade 2.0. It's an LFP chemistry battery, so lithium iron phosphate with improved energy density. To put it simply, it means they can fit more electricity into a smaller battery. And it will also benefit from several new technologies, including one called Flash Pass, which, to put it simply, makes it easier for ions to move within the battery, allowing for faster charging times. According to BYD, this battery will make it possible to build electric vehicles with a range of over 1,000 kilometers, while also benefiting from faster charging times. This is something almost never seen so far in the world of electric cars, especially because BYD is also developing a new charger technology alongside this. Chargers for electric cars called Flash Charger, which can deliver up to 1,500 kilodollars, which is enormous. Let me remind you that in Europe, when a car charges at 150 kilodollars, we already tend to consider that as good. BYD estimates that with these ultra-fast chargers, this battery could go from 10% to 70% charge in just 5 minutes. And what's even more impressive, from 10% to 97% charge in 9 minutes, which means we're really starting to see it happen now. Charging times for electric cars that are comparable to the time it takes to fill up a gas-powered car. BYD also says they have already installed 4,200 charging stations in China with this technology, and they plan to deploy 20,000 by the end of the year. And this new generation of ultra-fast chargers is paired with an energy storage system that helps smooth out demand on the power grid. That's the issue with ultra-fast chargers. They draw so much power all at once. Spikes in electricity consumption like these are something that power grids, such as the ones we have in France, are absolutely not designed for. By the way, something quite interesting. The first car that will benefit from this BYD Blade 2.0 battery and this flash charging technology, it's going to be the new Denza Z9 GT, which we'll talk about as well. It's a Chinese brand, and as usual with Chinese brands, let's just say they take inspiration from what's already out there. That's why when you squint a little while looking at this Denza Z9 GT, you can spot a Porsche Taycan. The silhouette looks similar. With these two new technologies made by BYD, this new car claims a range of 1,036 kilometers. I'm not sure, but I think this might be a world record for production vehicle range. As for charging, it's about what BYD announced: 10 to 97% in 9 minutes, 10 to 70% in 5 minutes. For your information, this car will not be limited to the Chinese market at all. It will arrive on the European market in several versions with several powertrains, all electric. Of course, there's a rear-wheel drive version with a 503 horsepower motor, a tri-motor version, that will be much more powerful. But about that, we don't have much information for now. It should have 800 horsepower accelerating from 0 to 100 in 2.7 seconds. The main question is its price in Europe, and that we don't really know. We do know that in China, it's sold between 34,000 and 46,000 euros, depending on the version, which is a lot. That's 1.5 to even twice the average price of a new car in China. It's not an average person's car, it's premium, nearly luxury. Expect to pay significantly more when it hits the European market, including taxes and related costs. Most likely, it'll be around 70,000 to 75,000 euros for the entry-level model, and probably much more for the high-end versions with the bigger engines. Still, at that price, even if you go for the best from our European brands, you won't get anything this good. It's as simple as that. Funny thing, just a moment ago I was telling you that the Denza Z9 costs 34,000 euros in China. In France, for 34,000 euros, you can buy the new generation of the electric Ford Puma. And there, well, it's a bit less impressive since with its new technical update, Ford now claims its range goes up to 417 kilometers. That's the WLTP range. If you drive on the highway, it'll be more like around 250 kilometers. 417 kilometers is still 40 more than the previous version of the electric Puma. This new score is achieved thanks to a new battery, whose capacity has increased from 43 kW to 46.86. This allows it to be, on paper, a bit more competitive overall. That would be the Peugeot 2008 electric Alfa Romeo Junior Electric, or even the Opel Mokka, which have between 406 and 410 kilometer to their credit for sales. Ford, however, hasn't increased the price of this new version, which benefits from more range but still starts at 33,990 euros, or even 29,000 after discounts in the network. Knowing that it can also benefit from the French bonus, which is now called CEE, and can potentially reach up to 7,600 euros. So, in the best case, about 22,000 euros for this new version of the Ford Puma Electric. I also wanted, in this video, to talk to you a little bit about technology and safety. Since Volvo has just invented a new seatbelt system that works with artificial intelligence. So it sounds a little crazy like that, but I'll sum up the concept for you. It's not as scary as it seems. This new system will be available first on the Volvo X60 and works as follows. It's a device that relies on a set of internal and external sensors, cameras, sensors, and scanners, which are capable of collecting a whole bunch of data almost instantly. In the event of an impact or a collision, if you prefer, it will calculate everything related to the occupant's morphology, their height, weight, seat position, the intensity of the collision, and the deceleration dynamics. A whole range of information that will then be instantly processed by the seatbelt, which will then select the most suitable protection strategy possible. Using these parameters, Volvo provided concrete examples. A person with a large build who is involved in a violent crash will benefit from a higher seatbelt tension to reduce the risk of head trauma. Conversely, a lighter passenger in a less severe accident will be restrained with a more moderate force to limit the risk of chest injuries. The goal, as you can see, is to move away from the logic of standardized and uniform protection. It's about adapting the seatbelt restraint to each occupant's profile and the severity of each situation. It sounds great on paper. We'll wait for the first crash tests on vehicles with this technology to see how it actually works, especially in real-life conditions. It's only by collecting a lot of data over time that scientists, analysts, engineers, and experts will be able to measure the effectiveness of this system. We'll finish with two pieces of Mercedes news. First, Mercedes-AMG has released new details and new images of the interior of its upcoming first fully electric Mercedes-AMG. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. But it's starting to become obvious that Mercedes-AMG is trying to make its drivers forget they're driving an electric car, especially by overloading the interiors. As for the screens, there are three: a 10-inch cluster for the gauges, a 14-inch central touchscreen, and a 14-inch passenger screen. You should know the highlight is that there are also two screens on the ceiling. It's not a joke, if I understood right. The two sunroofs use special technology that allows them to function either as regular glass, so you can see the sky and everything above the vehicle, or to project things onto them. Like the AMG logo, it's very bright, it's very flashy. We can assume that it will also, of course, depend on the tastes of future buyers, who might go for slightly more understated configurations. In any case, there will always be 3 rotary controls on the central interior console. These controls will allow the driver to adjust the powertrain calibration in real time. So that's the mapping. More or less power, chassis settings to have something stiffer or softer, to have more or less power on the rear wheels, more or less 4-wheel drive. Along with electronic aid management, the driving assistance systems offer 9 adjustment levels. Finally, another piece of news concerning Mercedes. Since Ola Kaninis, its CEO, has once again warned the European Commission that the new targets, since we recall they were modified in December 2025. The targets for the transition to electric cars were still unattainable, and that the European automotive industry was at risk of a complete disaster. Quite simply. So, I remind you that the targets went from 100% electric cars in 2035 to 90%, a relaxation that, according to Ola Kaninis, is still insufficient and does not match at all the pace of the energy transition that is currently being observed. He says the European Commission should focus on synthetic fuels, not electric cars, to rapidly decarbonize transport, the use of which, if it were generalized in the current European car fleet, would instantly reduce CO2 emissions without hurting the auto industry. He also commented on the smoothing of the calculation of CO2 fines for brands, which is now done over 2 years, between 2025 and 2027 instead of over 1 year, as insufficient, instead, calling for smoothing over the next 5 years, which would allow poor electric vehicle sales in 2025, 2026, and 2027 to be offset by maybe some very good ones afterwards, like the 10% margin in 2035. So the 90% instead of 100% electric cars, the 10% that need to be compensated, just as a reminder, by the brands by using low-carbon steel in their combustion engine cars. This also presents a problem, since currently the industry and trade of low-carbon steel hardly exist, and its development is not fast enough to meet the demand by 2035. And the new project we talked about in a video a few days ago, made in Europe, would hardly change anything. And it was a regulatory nightmare, which would simply risk making the launch of new models, plug-in hybrid vehicles, and electric vehicles even more complicated. We'll see if the European Commission takes these requests into account. He's definitely not the only one. In fact, overall, all the brands are saying pretty much the same thing. That's why the Commission started to ease up a little on its ambitions at the end of 2025. Now that the door's open, manufacturers are using the opportunity to push for a project revision now instead of waiting for the next European Commission leader. That's all for this video for Sunday, March 8th. I hope you found it interesting. If so, please share it by leaving a little like, subscribing for the next ones, and maybe even supporting through the join button below. I'll see you tomorrow for a new week of news. Ciao!